The Supreme Court actually did something that they were supposed to do for a change. Because I think the facts of the case were just so obvious, but that's never been a tell with this particular Supreme Court that is dominated by extremist right-wing judges.
This is the last thing we'll talk about here, and Infinite Content brought it up in the chat with a $5 super chat. Adam and Jacob, the Supreme Court actually did a good thing for Alabama in a gerrymandering case. Is Mercury in super retrograde this week? And yeah,
it took us all by surprise, I think.
It definitely took us by surprise. But, you know, I mean, on the merits of the case, the thing is, the thing makes sense. You know, I mean, the non-white population in the state of Alabama when the 7th congressional district was created was only 27% of the population. That's the whole non-white population, not even just the black population. So the whole non-white population was 27%. And today, the non-white population is 37% in the state of Alabama. And so it is just the case that, minorities who are protected by the Voting Rights Act in states across the country, not just Alabama, they do need a second congressional district at this point because their population has increased relative to the population of the state. And so they need a second congressional district to have an opportunity to elect somebody of their choosing. And so, you know, obviously the facts of the case are in what, in favor of deciding against Alabama on the case. But that's never stopped the Supreme Court before, you know.
Right,
I mean,
that's
when
the surprising thing.
Yeah, when they overturned the pre-clearance stuff back in, I think, 2014, is that when it happened? But whenever they overturned the pre-clearance, they did that after Congress reapproved the Voting Rights Act, including the pre-clearance, by 98%, 99%, you know? And they just said, and so they just said, well, Congress just approved this by 98%, but I interpret that they're really just scared to do this, and actually they don't want to do this, and so I'm going to overrule the 98% vote of the Congress of the United States and overturn something that was just approved by them, being the pre-clearance standard, which stated that for states and cities and municipalities, states in the South aren't the only ones who had to have pre-clearance. There were some places in New York that had a history of discrimination. But if you were an area that had a history of discrimination and racism and white supremacy and stuff like this, then you had to get pre-clearance to change the voting rules, which makes sense and and which Congress agreed to before they immediately in the years preceding the overturning of that by the Supreme Court by the activist judiciary, and so that's what a lot of people expected them to do this time, but they didn't. They abided by the law, which is kind of surprising, but glad we'll take a win where we can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's going to have a ripple effect because it's my understanding that the same person who created Alabama's now illegal maps also created the electoral maps for places like Auburn and I believe Tuscaloosa,
right,
and perhaps some other jurisdictions across the state. So, it'll be interesting to see if those end up in court, if they're not already. It'll be interesting to see, how this shakes up things politically. You're talking about maybe a second of the 7 congressional districts being actually competitive.
Right.
So that's interesting. Now, there's a lot more you could get in there in terms of what that would look like, but it is nice that the Supreme Court actually did something that they were supposed to do for a change and listen to common sense. So, because I think, like you said, the facts of the case were just so obvious, but that's never been a tell with this particular Supreme Court that is dominated by extremist right-wing judges.
Yeah, well, just look at the Glacier Northwest opinion that they released the week before, which clearly flies in the face of the National Labor Relations Act and the Constitution, but they just ignored the what the law says to give capital a win. So
yeah, absolutely. And last thing we'll say on Alabama as we wrap up is that the legislature did finish. So we can all breathe a sigh of relief that the legislature is no longer in session.
Yeah,
no more damage can be done.
Yeah, they are done legislating all over us for this year.
Yeah, there was good, there was bad, there was ugly, a lot of bad and ugly. One good bit of news is that I've reported a lot on HB 209, which would have criminalized absentee voting assistance. That bill died, just like the Divisive Concepts bill. Also dead. So, Good news.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.